So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning for Virtual Tech Talk with Airship. Today we have Mark Kozlowski, Trent Kocurek, and Don Townsend from Airship here to discuss Airfoil, which is a new tool to streamline React Native development. The chat is open, so feel free to use that if you'd like, and there will be time at the end for a Q&A. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mark, Trent, and Don to share their presentation.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for having us. We're really excited to be here. As Haley said, my name is Trent Kocurek. I'm co-founder and CEO here at Airship, but I'm a developer by trade. So I like to get into these projects. We have some great people here and some great skills. Airship is a custom development and design company. So we build, maintain, grow, design custom software. We typically work as product teams. So when someone in an organization needs to either ramp up or capitalize on a new opportunity or build something from scratch, we are the team that comes in with design, product management, development, and QA to help them achieve that. So we've done projects all the way from the smaller startups all the way to Fortune 500 companies, and we just really enjoy solving problems. And we've been doing it for a little while now, so we have a lot of fun. So Airship's been around for about 8 years. And one of the things that we want to make sure of and that we continuously look for is ways to be part of, interact with, and give back to the community that we utilize a lot, right? I mean, we utilize open source on a daily basis. Most of the frameworks that we use are open source. Most of the tooling that we use is open source. So we wanted to take the opportunity to give back to that same community that's given so much. And what better way than to give developers more time in their day and margin in their day so they can focus on the things that they really want to do and the impact that they're going to have with the features that they're building. What we're showing today is in its infancy, so don't expect this to be this all-encompassing, finished, tied a bow on it type of tool. This is really what we wanted to show for a couple of reasons. One is we want to go ahead and start getting some interest. We would love to look for contributors, for folks to kind of jump in and help out with it. But also we want to show that there's some people that have just have a little bit of courage to show what you're working on. It doesn't have to be perfect. I would just really encourage all of you, when you're working on something that can help others, don't wait till it's finished. Go ahead and get it out there and get that feedback. And we are all about that around here. So with that, just keep that in mind. Don't go and pull down the code immediately. Please pay attention for a little while and get some general ideas of what it is. But after the fact, we would all love to hear some feedback, and then obviously some contributors to be signed up as well and get going on it. With that, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let the two main showmen here, Don Townsend and Mark Kozlowski, take it from here. Both builders here, developers here at Airship, and I'm just going to kind of sit back and learn as well. So Mark, you want to go ahead and kick it off?
Yeah. Morning, everybody. Thanks again for coming to our tech talk. We're really excited about showing you what we've come up with, and I think we want to make you as excited about Airfoil as we are. Like Trent said, my name is Mark. I've been working at Airship for about 4 years. I'm a front-end developer, and I have been working on React Native projects actually the whole time I've been at Airship for about 4 years now. And I really enjoy working on mobile software and React Native specifically. React Native, we've had a lot of success with React Native. It gives us a lot of flexibility and fits perfectly with what we try to do for our clients. And so, and as a company, we have a lot of experience, a lot of man hours poured into a lot of different React Native projects. So that's given us an opportunity to learn all the great things about React Native, and also to identify some of the pain points and some of the areas that could be made simpler, made the developer experience a little bit better. So the main things that we were running into, and some of the main things that we were trying to solve, our thesis statement with Airfoil is that we want to make React Native development faster and more consistent. And so a couple of the things that we were trying to solve were, we realized that we were wasting a lot of time on things that could be automated. So this spans from large tasks to small tasks. Some of these being, when you start a project, you need to set up your TypeScript configuration, you need to set up your prettier configuration, your folder structure configuration, all of those. And those are relatively small things that aren't a big deal. However, once you get into setting up your API communication method, so if you want to get into setting up Axios for REST API or setting up your Apollo client, those are also things that aren't necessarily huge tasks, but over the life of many projects take up a lot of time, and adhering to dry principles, you don't want to repeat yourself over and over. And some of the more, and one thing actually that I've run into recently is we're rewriting base components. And by that, I mean taking the native React Native provided components like the text input or text or views, and we wrap those and add styles so that we can reuse them throughout our app. And we found moving into that we were reinventing the wheel each time. So our React Native projects are built by many developers, running the gamut of skill levels. And so that led to not a lot of consistency between our code bases. And so it led to cognitive load on developers coming onto a project, and time that needed to be spent onboarding those developers and kind of giving them the lay of the land of the project. And so we wanted to see how we could solve that and save ourselves some time and really automate the tedious things that waste brain cycles, so that we can get to the more interesting problems and creating great experiences for our clients. So the solution we came up with is our tool called Airfoil. It's an automated project setup tool and kind of a grab bag of, you didn't know you needed it until now, style convenience features. So it offers project initialization, and by that I mean it takes React Native init and sort of gives it superpowers. It sets up a lot of things for you, a lot of things that you need to set up manually each time, like navigation, your API communication method, folder structure, TypeScript configuration, prettier configuration, all that kind of stuff. It also provides some features like component template generation, hook template generation, and by that I mean it provides a quick way to create and file away your components into predetermined folders for organization, which is really nice. So, and it's also a little, I alluded to before, it's sort of a grab bag of magic tricks for making React Native even more convenient to develop for. So, and some of the philosophy behind Airfoil, we wanted to make it a command line tool. We wanted it to be at your fingertips and allow the developer to navigate into their code base directory, run some commands, and save a lot of time. Another thing that we wanted the features for Airfoil to be opt-in. By that, I mean, we didn't want Airfoil to be sort of a limiting framework. We wanted a developer to be able to use as many or as few of the features as they wanted. And we also wanted compatibility with old and new code bases. So we wanted to be able to use Airfoil with code bases that hadn't been initialized with Airfoil, as well as ones that have been, obviously. And we wanted to make it lightweight. We wanted it to mimic aircraft instrumentation in a way. We wanted it to be as useful as possible without being cumbersome and in your face, and get out of your way when you don't need it. I also want to take a minute and give a shout out to Infinite Red. Airfoil started out as just a project initialization tool, which was heavily inspired by their tool Ignite. And as we were building it, we realized that we could use their glue gun tool that they provide to write command line programs with JavaScript. So this allows our entire front end team to help develop Airfoil and to commit to that code base and to contribute. So shout out to them, huge inspiration, and they provided a lot of tools to help us build Airfoil. So let me stop talking about Airfoil and actually show it to you. So first thing I'm going to show you is project initialization. Let me get this out of the way. So starting up a new code base is pretty easy. What you want to do is, I'm going to go ahead and get into my home directory here. And all you have to do to fire up an Airfoil project is run Airfoil init. And then you just type the name of the project, similar to React Native init. So we're going to call this project Preflight. It's going to be a checklist of pre-flight items that an aircraft pilot would need to complete before getting in the air. So we'll call this pre-flight. And this is going to think for a minute, and it's after a second, it's going to give you a couple of options moving forward. So those two options are the templates that we have provided so far. So there's a Blimp template and there's a Jet template. So Blimp is sort of your lightweight template that can be used for small projects. It's built around REST using an Axios configuration. So the idea is you run Blimp, you run the Blimp template, and you can plug in an API URL and possibly some header fetching logic, and you're good to go. Your API communication is set up, as well as a bunch of other cool features that I'll show you in a second. And so Jet is similar to Blimp, except it is built around GraphQL. We have had a lot of success with GraphQL here at Airfoil or Airship. I'm sorry. And so we built a template that focuses on GraphQL as our main communication tool. So, and we use Apollo as the client. So we're going to create pre-flight using the Jet template, and I'll just kind of show you what happens. So once you hit enter, it's going to create the code base, create the project, and also download dependencies, install pods, and do all that kind of stuff. And actually, for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this and show you a freshly made project using Airfoil. So let me change directory really quick. So this is what a Jet template, fresh Jet template looks like. So it's going to look similar to a React Native project, except as you'll see, we've added a lot of placeholders and convenience items in the folder structure to help you get your project off the ground faster. So first thing is we have our Apollo configuration. We have our Apollo utils folder. And this is really great because, like I was saying earlier, you can add an API base URL to your environment variables, and you're pretty much ready to go. And if you'd like, you can add some authorization header logic for fetching that. We also provide some convenience features for adding error reporting and things like that. Totally optional. You can delete them if you don't want to use them, but they're there for you if you'd like to use them. And continuing on in the GraphQL theme, we have set up places for your mutations, set up places for queries. That way you can just quickly add them to that folder and add subfolders and things like that as you'd like. But another thing, we've also created some standard components with some convenience features. So we wrapped the React Native text component and added some props that just let you go ahead and pass in a color, whether you want it to be bold, italic, font size, all that kind of good stuff. Same thing with a screen and a view. We took these React Native components and added some convenience features so that you don't have to, so you can have a smaller styles object and things like that. So, and this is what it looks like when you first fire up the Jet template. It gives you a blank slate, and it shows you this pretty cool, in my opinion, little Jet SVG, and bids you to get started and says hello. So, yeah, I'm actually going to take this opportunity to fast forward a little bit. So, like I said earlier, we're going to be creating a pre-flight checklist item for pilots. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I'm going to say change directory into here and show you what we're working with now. So we've added some GraphQL queries to fetch all of these to-do items. So these are all coming from Contentful. Contentful is another service that we really enjoy using. Go check it out if you haven't before. And each of these little checklist items is toggleable. So if I were a pilot, I would want to be able to probably log that I have checked off all of my pre-flight items, but there isn't not currently a way to do that. So what I would probably do now if I were a developer is add a button to say submit checklist or log or something like that, that would take me to a success screen or a done screen or something like that. But as you can see, we don't have a button, and in our components folder, we have no button. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one Airfoil's component generation feature to create a button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the command line. I'm going to type Airfoil create component button. And Airfoil currently allows you to create components, and it allows you to create hooks. And so if I wanted to create a hook, I would type Airfoil create hook, and then whatever my hook name is, use check or something like that. But in this case, I'm creating a component. So I'm saying Airfoil create component, and then I'm naming it button. And just a side note, Airfoil is smart. If you forget to add the name of your component, it will ask you for that. And if you forget to tell Airfoil what you want to create, it'll prompt you for to give you options for things it can create. But as you can see, we successfully created the button component, and it is in our components folder right here. And so the template go ahead and provides you a space to put your props in. It provides you a place to go ahead and fill out your JSX, and also to create your styles. And for time's sake, I'm going to paste in a little bit of code and create our button. So, and actually, let me fix a couple of items really fast. There we go. Okay, so let's add our button to the home screen. And this is going to take us to a done screen that has already been created. And let me paste in a little bit of code right here. So we can see now that we have a submit checklist button that takes us to this done screen. And one of the things I forgot to mention that I really enjoy about these templates is it goes ahead and does some of the tedious setup of setting up React navigation. We have chosen React Navigation as our navigation provider. We really like it. So it goes ahead. We have a main navigator set up, and we're pre-set up with a stack. So you can go ahead and add some screens for a simple stack and build upon this for your more complicated navigation flows. So that's a quick overview of creating a project. That's a quick overview of generating components and sort of high level also philosophy and our thought and heart behind Airfoil. But now for some pretty cool features, I'm going to kick it over to Don. Don's been working together with me on this project, and he's added a lot of really amazing features. I'm really excited for you to see what he's done. So I'm going to pass it over to him.
Microphone. All right, thanks, Mark. My name's Don, and I'm a full stack dev here at Airship. I work on the React Native side and also work on the Ruby on Rails side as well, but mostly on the front end, mostly specialize in the front end frameworks with the React Native and React Web. So what Mark just showed you was the ability to kind of spin up, the boilerplate for React Native apps, and also some of the generate commands as well. What we also wanted to do was to add some utility functions and convenience functions as well to help get the app off the ground. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now. Okay, so we have the same app where Mark just left off with our pre-flight checklist. We have the ability to check off some items and also to submit our checklist so that we're ready for takeoff. The first thing that we want to do, and often a common item for apps, is to add SVGs and to add images. At our company, we have our designers who like to submit SVGs, scalable vector graphics, and the reason for that is they have infinite resolution. They can scale up to any size, and it's very easy for them to provide us those assets. So in our app, we already have some SVGs already added here to our project, and these exist in the app assets SVG directory. And we need to convert these over to code that's able to be used in React Native. So one thing that we can do is come over here to our terminal, and all we need to do is to type Airfoil Convert Svg. And Airfoil is going to do all the heavy lifting of converting these SVGs over into TypeScript files. We use TypeScript here at Airship. We love TypeScript, and it's very good for seeing the types of your props and seeing the params and kind of making sure that your function signatures are what they're supposed to be. So this command just finishes up, and it's gone ahead and converted these files over into our TSX files. So now I'll show you what just happened. In our components icon directory, we have 4 new generated files, and it also did some other things as well under the hood. It added an aspect ratio. It automatically calculates the aspect ratio. If your icon is not square, if it's like rectangular, if the width and height are not exactly the same, it'll automatically take that into consideration. So it just has a single size prop that gets passed in. This will also, it'll read through the SVG and determine what the different colors were that were used in the SVG. So in these cases, we have a single color that was used. But if there's more than one color, it actually will give you color 1, color 2, and will generate those props accordingly. So we can go ahead and use these icons in our checklist, our check item component. So here I have this method already pre-made and ready to go. I can just come in here and return my SVG pump and pass in my icon props. I can also add an icon for the steering wheel. Pass in my icon props as well. And then I can add my radio icon. Same thing for that. And if everything is good to go, sweet. We now have icons ready to go in our app. So pretty sweet. We were able to get SVGs added in a matter of less than a minute. So there is a tool that exists called SVGO, and that allows you to convert SVGs to TypeScript. That is a manual process. And we thought that this would be a good candidate for something to automate. Personally, I use this tool all the time to add SVGs into React Native apps. So that's a good handy tool, tool for the toolbox, as we would say. So another common use case, another common pain point for apps is environment variables, and especially with React Native as it builds down to a bundled JS file. If you forget to add your environment variable in the correct place, you have to rebuild the app, and sometimes that can be a matter that you can lose half an hour of productivity by forgetting to add a single environment variable. So we've added a command to automate that process. So for the use case, let's go ahead and in our Apollo utils file, this is an excellent candidate for adding an environment variable. So we have our URI here that specifies grabbing the API URL from Contentful, and what we're going to do is we're going to replace this with environment variables. So I've just got some strings here I can copy real quick and come back over to the terminal, and all I need to do is run the command airfoil add env. Type it correctly there. And then we are going to specify the key, the item here on the left, and then the equals, and then whatever the value of the key we want to set, and run that command. And after it thinks for a few seconds, it generates a few files, updates a few files. So We update our .env file. We also update our .env.example, which is really crucial. This is very easy to forget this step, but it's important, especially as you have other devs that ramp up on your project and need to see what the environment variables, what the structure looks like, what they need to fill in. It also added some content to our constants file. And we also use App Center for building React Native apps. So this also automated the change to our App Center pre-build script as well. So some of the changes, what are the changes that were made? So this was a line that was added by Airfoil. So it added this API URL. And in our App Center pre-build script, it also added this line as well. So it just automates a few things. And what it does is it helps to, reduce some of those brain cycles. It also helps to speed up the process, save you a few minutes, which in the course of a day does definitely add up. It also helps to prevent human error, which, as we know, as devs, we make errors all the time. So try to minimize those errors as much as possible. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually add one more environment variable here, the access token. Give that a second to think here. And then once these are added, I'm going to go ahead and add these to our Apollo utils. So import these guys in here. If all is well. We shouldn't notice any change because this is pulling from the same URL, but now this is data that's defined with environment variables. If we need to change, if we need to swap out the API URL or change the access token, that's an easy thing to change now. So that is environment variables. Next on the agenda, so we wanted to show here at Airship, we use a process called architecture design records, and this is called an ADR. An ADR is the ability to document, a design decision or an architecture decision that was made, why it was made, or what was the context surrounding this decision. So just to demonstrate what an ADR is. So if I run the command Airfoil Add Adr, it's going to prompt me a few questions. What is your ADR's title? So here at Airship, we try to, increase morale, try to make sure that the devs are having a good time. So choose pizza party for devs. This is totally made up, but just as an example of something that we can do for our ADR here. So status is going to be accepted. Our team has accepted this ADR. Context. So devs lack morale and need to have morale improved. Decision, we're going to host a pizza party. And consequences, let's say that devs will be carb loaded. Okay. All right, so that's kind of a silly example, but in the real world situation, we would the decision might be to choose Apollo or to choose AWS as your service or whatever the architecture decision is. This would be a place to document that decision, to list some of the consequences, some of the context surrounding that decision. So what this command did is actually generated a few files here. So it generated our ADR README, which is kind of an overall kind of a meta document. It also generated our first ADR here, choose pizza party for devs. And I'll show those files real quick here. So our README, this is a generated file, and also generated this ADR as well. So it lives here in our ADR directory, and this is added this can be added via source control. So just a good way to document different decisions that are made along the life cycle of a project. So all right, so as we're working on our app, A common use case is to get it prepared for submitting to the App Store or to submit to the Google Play Store in the case of Android. So with Android, there's the common requirement of having to generate a key store to get your app ready to submit. And this is a step that personally I found kind of tedious and a good candidate for automation. So we added the command to be able to add a key store. And this will go ahead and generate our key store, and it's going to also prompt us that the key store, some steps that we need to go through to get the key store to work. And of course, I've got an error going on. This is because the key store already exists. So just for the sake of demonstration, let me delete that real quick and then rerun the command. So that's actually good. We don't want to override our key store. So Airfoil double checks to make sure that the key store doesn't first exist before creating it. So cool. Airfoil gives us some instructions to stop, go ahead and do the following. Include this in, we use 1Password, but this would just be whatever password management tool that you use. And then go ahead and save those credentials into your password manager. So it really does save an extra step. This is something that would take, a few minutes to open up Android Studio to generate the key store or run the command line or whatever the process is. This, just saves that cognitive load like you mentioned earlier. All right, and moving right along. So kind of trying to prep our app for release. So the next step would be to add our app icon. So currently, if we open up Xcode and navigate to our target and go to our images, the app there's currently no app icon added to this app. So this is actually one of the more tedious things in setting up a project. So what we can do, we have gone ahead and added this app icon.png to the root of our project. And by the way, this name right now does need to exactly match app icon, and it's also case sensitive as well. And that might be something that we can change with a configuration down the road, but right now it just needs to match, app icon.png. So we can run Airfoil add app icon. And this is going to go ahead and just generate all those different app icons for us. So if we consider that we would have had to manually, resize all of these or use an online tool or something to, generate all these different images and then make sure that they're all placed in the correct directory. This went ahead and did all that stuff for us. So this app icon already is in the right place. It's generated all the different necessary sizes. It did this for iOS and Android as well. So we found that this has just been a super big time saver for us in getting the project started. So, and finally, a common use case for projects, we need to check, we need to make sure that things are ready for version control. We need to release subsequent versions of our app. So with React Native specifically, to bump the version, we need to update several different files. And whenever we're changing multiple files, there's always, again, the possibility of human error. So what we can do here is, first of all, we need to make sure that our Git directory is clean. So I'm going to go ahead and just add everything and do a quick Git commit, add awesome changes. So now that my Git working directory is clean, I'm going to go ahead and run Airfoil version patch. And this is going to bump our version. It's going to bump the patch version. So a patch update. a patch version release. I think that's what you call that. Okay, so we were on version 0.0.1 and now we're on version 0.0.2. So what just happened? So a few things just happened. This actually went ahead and created a commit for us. And in that commit, if we run a git diff against that commit, we see some of the changes that just occurred. We see that our Android app build.gradle was updated with the new version number. Our PBX project was also updated as well. Our info.plist and our package.json. So again, all these things, they're quite easy to do, but yeah, they're kind of tedious. You have to remember to, oh, did I update my info.plist? And if you forget one, you have to go back and do it later after, App Store is not seeing the latest version. Oh, it's because I didn't update the info.plist or whatever the change is. So this is just one of the things to kind of, streamline that process, make it a little bit easier, reduce the cognitive overhead for devs, make our lives a little bit easier. So I believe that's a wrap for me. This is the app as it exists. We have the ability to check off our items and then to submit it. And we are now ready for takeoff. Thanks for listening. This is all that I think that I have on my end. I'm gonna kick it back to Trent to close this out.
Awesome. Mark and Don, thank you all so much. And again, thank you NTC for having us. I hope that you can see how Airfoil could fit into your dev cycle and you see the heart behind it. Again, there are so many things that we do on a daily basis as React Native developers that if you forget, one of these things could cost you a minute, 10 minutes. You do that enough times, you've got hours and hours and hours. And that's usually what it takes across the board for us when we miss these things. So I just really, really hope that you can see the heart behind it and the reasons for a lot of these features. And again, what are some things that you're already doing on the React Native side that we haven't covered today? We want contributors here. Again, this is in the infancy. We kind of hooked a couple of our low-hanging fruit items there. But we would love to see and get feedback from you all of what are some of those other kind of just time consuming or just those things that could be time consuming if you forgot them and add those. I do want to give a shout out. There was one of our team members, Austin Jones, who had a big part to play in Airfoil as well. He's a member of our team. He wasn't able to be here today, but again, this is a project that we have held to our heart here. Several people have interacted with it. You're looking at two of them, but Austin Jones is another huge contributor to this, and we definitely want to give him a shout out. So we've got a few minutes left. We've got about 20 minutes on the clock, I would say, left, but we've already had one question submitted. I'm going to go ahead and read that, and I'll ask Mark or Don to answer that one. But if you have any other questions, I would love some input or those to be sent into the chat. So first question is, what are any future planned Airfoil release features that you have currently on the docket? So Mark, can you talk a little bit about that, or Don, about what are some things that we're already working on?
Yeah, so one of the a couple of the features that we have in the pipeline and that we're exploring are an Airfoil RC file. So that would provide project specific overrides for the default configurations. So Airfoil would search for the Airfoil RC file, and by default, for example, right now we have our components that are being generated filed under the components common folder. But if you have a different workflow or something like that, you just want to put it in the components folder, or you want to put it in something else like that, you'd be able to specify that in an Airfoil RC file. We're also adding more types of code generation, like creating screens, creating context and things like that. And another thing that we're excited about that we'd like to add is adding splash screens, because that's also a time sink and could do with a lot of automation. So those are a few that I have on the top of my.
Well, I always have a laundry list of things that are going through my brain of ideas that could make this project even better. There are tools that exist to update the Xcode, the PBX project, and the Xcode configuration files, and we can have more granular control over how those updates are made. Yeah, like Mark said, generating more components, more like a screen component, the ability to generate a component and have it added to React navigation by default. That would save some time. Yeah, and we're also open to ideas. Please, if you all have ideas of how this tool can be improved and made better, please let us know.
Those are great. That's really exciting. There's a lot of other ones that I could even imagine that we add to it. When dealing with certificates and signing and all, there's some other tools that kind of deal with that specifically, but I can see Airfoil actually wrapping some of those into it as well. So awesome. Thanks for the question. Got another one here. So what could Airfoil be used for other frameworks or other mediums like React Web? Are there any plans to use or build Airfoil to potentially do React Web generation and some of this as well? Because it seems a little bit, in line with a lot of what we would do on the React side as well.
Yeah,
what are your
I'll take
thoughts, guys?
Discuss that internally. That's another opportunity that excites us for automation, because we love React Native. We also love React. So we haven't begun creating that sort of functionality yet, and we would need to decide whether or not that would fit under the umbrella of Airfoil or if that would be a separate tool. But that is definitely something that excites us and something that we sort of have in our crosshairs for the future, and we have some team members that are excited about that.
That's awesome. Yeah, great question. I think that would be a really, really awesome feature set to have. Again, and for those that work within the React ecosystem, there is a lot of commonality between the React Native side and the React side, and I can see us being able to spread that or bridge that gap. Not us, but as a community of all the contributors on here too. It'd be a pretty cool project to split off. Another person has asked, is this ready to share with others in the community, or are you just asking for NTC to contribute? I can actually answer that one. This is for everybody, right? Like, take this. We're going to show you how to get to this repository. We're going to give you all the link and the contact information, and everything. It would be really, really great to throw it out on Twitter, throw it out on all your social media, because at the end of the day, we want this to impact as many developers as possible and to get as many contributors as possible, so we can build something really, really great and make an impact on so many developers' lives. So yeah, it's going to be ready to share. There's probably some hiccups that you'll find, but that's part of it, right? And we expect those to happen. This is, remember, in the infancy there. So yes, share, and let us know if you have any questions along the way. Those are the only questions that we've got submitted so far. But at the end of the day, we have one more?
Yeah, there's one in the Q&A.
All right, let me see. Where's this at?
So this question is, yes, the question is, does the project template have to be in TypeScript, or is JavaScript an option? So this is something that we kind of discussed early on. I think, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that where we personally landed on this was we wanted this to be, also has opinions. We wanted to have an opinionated framework. And one of the great things about an opinionated framework is that some of those kind of menial decisions, not menial, but they're important, but they're more trivial. There's some of the decisions that it doesn't really matter, like how your project, how the file directory is structured. It doesn't really matter how your app icons get added or which components you use. I guess the point is that those opinions exist, and they make that we can just start a project up and start rolling with the existing framework that's in place. So I think for now, we are planning just to stick with TypeScript for now. That could be a feature down the road that we
Yeah. Also, we initially developed Airfoil with Airship in mind and with our developers in mind, and we've really appreciated TypeScript and saved us a lot of time, and it gives us a lot of confidence. But I do like the idea of maybe creating alternate templates that we could find fun names for that would be JavaScript projects without types and things like that added. I have a couple of slides to show if there are no more questions.
I just want to add one more onto that one question there, John. So it's open source, man. Again, we love contributors. So what we've built here is what you see, and like the guy said, this is kind of what we had in mind. But there are still a lot of people that are using JavaScript, and we understand that. Like, not everybody has updated to TypeScript yet. And so we want to remove as many barriers to entry and friction points as possible. So just see this again, it's open source. If you want to take a crack at it, or if that becomes something that a lot of the community is asking for, let's see what we can do to make that happen. So John, that's the answer is yes, right now it's TypeScript, but the answer is not always, and doesn't have to always be only TypeScript. So love your input on that as well. Yeah, Mark, go ahead and share. We want everybody to know how to get in touch with us. We only got a couple minutes left. So we got a slide to throw up, and then let's close this out a little bit. And if there's any other questions that come in, obviously roll it in.
Yeah, I would also be remiss really quick, but to show you, we created a documentation site for Airfoil. I know we threw a lot of information at you guys, but we created a documentation site that lists out the features with examples of how to use them, code examples, copy and pastable items, things like that. So that is at airfoil.teamairship.com. And so feel free to go check that out. That also there's also a link to the GitHub as well. And here are some other links that I'll show you. So for installation, the airfoil.teamairship.com/getting started is the site that I just showed you. You can go there for some more instructions on installation. And the GitHub repository is at github.com/teamairship/airfoil. So we really hope to see you there. We're really excited about Airfoil, and would be excited to see more enthusiasm about it in the form of issues and feature requests, pull requests, that sort of thing. So head on over to the GitHub or our documentation site, and we hope to see you there.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody, again. Haley, if you want to close us out, or what's the next step here?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you guys for that amazing presentation. That was some very interesting stuff. We will be sending out an email later on today with just a follow-up from today's discussion, with a link to the recording of this video. And Airship has also, they want to give everyone who is in attendance a free t-shirt. So that is amazing. So look out for an email later today asking for a shirt size or something like that. But other than that, thank you guys for this presentation, and thank you Airship for sponsoring today.
Thanks for the opportunity. Hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.